Okay, here's a video on what to do when you have modeled something and you want to add some kind of high resolution details in ZBrush or anywhere else, but I'm going to be showing ZBrush. This isn't going to cover everything, but it's going to be some small tips and simple techniques that even people who don't use ZBrush will be able to kind of pick up and do. It's not an introduction to ZBrush, so you need to kind of know how to use it a little, but it's going to show you some things you can do. So let's say this is a model I was using for another tutorial. It's not finished, it's not complete, but it's a good example of something you might want to detail a little. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to export it. So I'm going to go File, Export Selection. I'm going to put it on the desktop. I'm going to make it an FBX, actually. Yeah, let's make it an FBX. And I'm going to only take the first one and the third one, not the rest. And I'm going to just call it temp. Throw it on there. Alright, so let's go to ZBrush. So we'll go ZB and open it up. So what I want to show with this is a few simple ways you can add some details to the surface and not change the design, not change the model or remodel it, just add some details which then when you go to Substance Painter or something like that, you'll be able to play around with some more. Okay, so we're here. We're going to get rid of light bulbs. We're going to throw down a cylinder, go to edit, now we have the cylinder. We're going to make it a 3D mesh, make polymesh 3D, and now we have a cylinder. Wonderful. Next we're going to go to Z plugin, and we're going to go to FBX import export, and we're going to import. And this is where we're going to go to our desktop and grab this temp FBX we put in. So this is what it's going to give us. It's going to give us our mesh in ZBrush. If you open your subtool palette, you see it's all in different pieces. So if you click this poly F button here, it's going to show you the wireframe. So it's going to show you everything separate. Now, if you have a really complicated model which has lots and lots and lots of pieces, like a spaceship or anything like that, what you can do is you can go down here to merge, and you can merge visible. And then you go back up. Over here, you're going to have this new model. And now everything is in one piece. And then if, let's say this was a really complicated spaceship and I wanted to have a few of these things together, I could just go Control and Shift and grab some of these like this, and then press Control, Shift, and A, and it's going to make them all visible. And I can press Control W, and it's going to make them one polygroup. Or I could just Control, Shift, and click, and then Control, Shift, click again to reverse it, and then anything else I click going to become invisible. So let's say I want these to be together, Control W, and let's say that I want this and this to be together as well. I can press Control W, and then I can come back, and this is a different one as well. And now I can go to split, and you see they're all together here. I can, because I've put them in groups like this, I can go group split, and now in here they'll be split according to what the groups were. So if I had like a piece, some kind of spaceship with like 100 different pieces, and I wanted a lot of those pieces to be stuck together, I could merge them all so they're merged visible, and then I can just select the pieces of that spaceship that I want to put together and put them as one polygroup, one color, and then I can split the whole ship into separate pieces by the groups that I've made. We're not going to do that right now. We're just going to go back to the one we imported, which is every single one is separate, and I want to show you a few different techniques on how you could start detailing this. So, first thing, you do want them to be separate, not all together, and let's get started. Okay, so let's grab our pen tablet. First thing I want to show you is just dividing. So we have our thing here, and we're just going to go Control D, or we could go down here into geometry and just click divide. I'm going to click Control D a few times, and now it's really smooth. not really what we want, but okay, we can work with this, and we can grab your clay and you can make it a bit bigger. You can soften it a little. You could do some, oh, we actually want our symmetry, of course. You always have to have your symmetry when you're working with symmetrical models. You can start detailing. You know, this is, you could do this if you want. I'm not gonna do that because that is terrible. Really bad. Don't do that. So we have this mesh here, and it's really angular, and every time we smooth it, it gets really scrunched up together. There's a few things you could do to fix that. So first thing you could do is you could take off this SMT button, and now when you divide, it's actually just gonna add in squares without smoothing it. So then you yourself can come in and smooth it a little more carefully. You can be a lot more careful. You can put in the details back as they go down. This is something you can do depending on what kind of piece you're making. That might be okay, but for this it's still not good enough. I still feel like it's losing a lot of detail. So something else you can do is you can enter dynamic smooth mode. So if you've ever pressed just D by accident, it's gonna give you do you want to do dynamic subdiv, and you press yes, and it's gonna do this. And what this has done is, if you open dynamic subdiv in your geometry palette, it's turned this button on. And this is showing you like what it's gonna look like when you divide it. It's not divided, there's no subdivisions, but this is what it's gonna look like. And you're thinking, great, that's useless. Why are you telling me this? Great, fine, don't worry. So let's go back to our frame here, our wireframe. And I'm going to press B to show my brushes, and I'm going to grab this one called ZModeler right at the bottom here. And this is going to be a little confusing for some of you, but we're going to make it really simple. So first, let's make our brush size to 1, and now you can select either faces, edges, or points. And if you hold space, and this is going to freak you out, you get a bunch of options that come up. And you have a different option for faces, different options for edges, and different option for points. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to set everything to do nothing. So let's go to the face and just go up here and click do nothing. We're going to go to the edge and do nothing, and we're going to go to the point and do nothing. So now it doesn't matter how much you click, nothing's going to happen. And what we want right now is the faces. So we're going to go to a face. I said do nothing, not delete. We're going to go to a face, and we're going to change this to polygroup. So the way this menu works for the ZModeler brush, you have a menu that tells you what you're going to do. So you have extrude, you have mask, insert, scale, things like this, bridge, similar to Maya. So this is what you're going to do. Then you have your target. This is what you're going to do it to. So right now I'm set to polygroup. If I click a single poly, I'm going to change the group of a single poly, right? But I can change the target to something else. So for instance, a poly loop. And I can, you see you have this little arrow next to the where you're pointing. I can change the poly group for a whole row like this, or a loop. Or I'm going to keep it to a single poly now, and this tells you some extra options. So actually, let's go to polygroup again. It's going to do this. Let's change these extra options to 3 sides, and now it's not going to do anything. 6 sides? No? Okay, never mind. These are extra options. Depending on what you're doing, it will have different options. Something else you can do is if you hold Alt, so right now I'm set to a single poly. If you hold Alt, it's going to mask, and it's going to create a mask. And even though I'm set to a single poly, when I click, it's going to do it to that entire mask. So this is very useful if you want to kind of like, oh, I'm doing a single poly, but I want this, and you can just really quickly add pawns. See, I'm actually dragging. And very last thing, if you're using polygroup like this, if you click and then you press Alt, it's going to cycle through different colors. If you hold Shift, it's going to copy the color that you first clicked. So if I have like a bunch of different colors here, but it's like, oh, I want to make this color again, I can just click here, Shift, and let go of my click, and then I can just make these green. Alright, so what's the point of that, Stefan? Why do you show us this wonderful complex menu to show us how to add different colors? So what I want to do is, I want to put a different color for this middle piece. So I'm going to go polygroup, a polyloop, and I'm going to do this. And then I want this one to be a different one as well, and I'll leave the rest as it is. Very simple. I just wanted these to be different colors. Now, when you go to crease, there's a menu in geometry called crease. You can create creasing for your mesh using these colors. So what does creasing do? So let's go back to dynamic, and you see everything is smooth, right? I'm going to go back to an edge here. I'm going to select an edge, and I'm going to hold space, and I'm going to click crease, and I'm going to crease a single edge. And when you crease an edge, it pinches it, so that when you divide or when you go into dynamic view, it's going to keep that edge sharp. So you can click, 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 oops, click. And if you want to get rid of one, you can hold Alt, and it's going to do the opposite of whatever you're doing. And you can see it's keeping these edges really sharp. So what I want to do is I want to keep these borders really sharp. So if I wanted to, I could press go into dynamic mode. I could go to this edge and I could just click each one, and it's going to start making these edges really sharp. Or I could go here and I could go to crease edge loop complete instead, and now it's going to crease the entire edge loop, and this is exactly what we want. Or I can do what I did here, and this is usually very good for really complex shapes. I can give it different colors, different polygroups, and then I can go to the crease menu itself, and I can click crease PG. And this is going to automatically put a crease in between every different color. So usually what I do is I put a model in here, I polygroup it all, and usually it's a lot more complicated than this, and then I click crease PG, and it's creased everything, and it's added a crease to every different color. If I want to get rid of it, I can uncrease all, and I can bring it back. So now we have something like this. Before it was like this, and now it's like this. And this is a little nicer. Looks much smoother, much better. I'm still just pressing D, the D button, and it's turning this dynamic on and off. I can choose how many the preview is going to be. Right now it's on free. And if I don't want to do this, if I just want to start dividing straight away, that's fine. It's still gonna take these creases into consideration. So I can press Control D or divide. Oop, we need our SMT on so it smooths. And you see it's gonna keep these edges. So dynamic really is showing you exactly what it's gonna look like. And dynamic is really nice because you can turn it on. I don't have any subdivisions yet. It's still only this geometry. It's just a preview. I can grab the move brush and I can still move it. All I'm doing is moving these low resolution squares. There's no detail here yet. It's just a preview. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. If you wanted to, you can then apply this dynamic subdivision. Let's put it to 4 and you can apply it. It's still not very much. It's only 62,000. You can see it's not a lot of detail. We'll divide it once more and we'll grab some kind of brush, trim dynamic, and we can go in here and we can start, you know, painting and sculpting and doing whatever it is that we want to do on something that looks a little bit nicer than it did before. And we still can go all the way back to 1 and we have the mesh that we started with. So this is one thing you can do to add detail. You can go here with like a down, and also we still have these groups, so I can like control and click, control shift and click, and it's gonna show me this, and I can then like start putting stuff like this, and then I can bring it back. It's gonna look like there's like wood or something, you know. There's a lot of things you can do here. Lots of things you can do using this stuff. Okay, so let's say that we're happy with this and we know how we can use this now to make some details or whatever it is you want to do. What else can we do? Alright, so something else you can do if we grab this thing is you could just Dynamesh. So you could just go down here to Dynamesh and you can just click Dynamesh and it's going to do this, which is hideous. Maybe we need a bit more detail, so let's go up a little in resolution and click Dynamesh, and now it's going to do this. Let's put our symmetry on, and we can start smoothing. So what it's done is it's regenerated our entire model into something like this, and we can use this to just smooth very quickly if we just don't need a lot of detail. We're just making something like, I don't know, a stick or something, or some kind of, we're gonna add detail to something that we can maybe bring back to Maya or whatever it is. You can just Dynamesh and you can start creating some details. Grab trim dynamic again. It's nice for these kind of details. We can bring this up. Once Dynamesh is active, if you do a mask in an empty space, it's going to reapply it. So you see it added it again. So let's keep going here, and we can add something like this. It's kind of looking a bit like chocolate. So I don't really like using Dynamesh if I'm trying to make metal like this, because it ends up looking really soft. And I'm always gonna end up working with polygroups again. You can use polygroups even in a mesh like this, even with Dynamesh. So what I would do is, you can mask. So if you know about control and masking, you can use masking, and you can come in here and you can mask this all the way like that. So let's say we're doing something like this all the way down. Not being very careful, I'm just trying to be quick. And you can do something like this. So I pressed, let's get rid of some of these we don't need. Is that enough? Yeah. So you can then press Control W, and it's going to turn your mask into a different color. And let's do that here as well, just very quickly. Don't want to take too much time doing this. Control W, different color, and we'll do the top as well, like this. And you can hold Control and click up here and change it to a lasso, so you could do it using a lasso as well. Right, Control W. Alright, so now we have a few different colors, and I'm going to Control Shift click this one, and I'm actually going to make these ones a different color as well, like that. So now we have a different color here. Excellent. Alright, we have something like this. It's all Dynamesh. Now, why did we do this? Because I'm not going to use dynamic subdivision, because if you use dynamic subdivision with Dynamesh, it's going to give free subdivisions to 1,500 and 153,000 polygons, which is too many. You can see if I click dynamic, it's going to be really slow, and my computer is not that good. It doesn't look any better either. If I click dynamic, it's just going to make it a bit soft, and that's it. It doesn't really look good. You can go to deformation instead, and one of the options deformation has is polish by features. So if you just click regular polish, it's just going to soften it a bit. But if you click polish by features, I'm going to show you what it's going to do to the lines. So this is normal polish, and this is polish by features. It's going to start pinching everything that's a crease or a polygroup, anything that's called a feature. It's going to start creasing. So polish by features is really good for kind of sharpening up the polygroups you've made. And it looks like it's going to take forever, right? Like, oh my god, I'm going to have to pull this slider for forever. There's a little dot on the end. If you open it, it's going to become stronger. It's going to not retain the shape. It's not going to keep the shape. It's just going to try and smooth it really, really hard. So I've just opened this on the end, and now it's going a lot harder and a lot faster. And you can get a shape like this. So this, I don't like using Dynamesh, but you can still get it to make something that looks really nice and really sharp if you combine it with this polish by features. And I'm just going to undo that a few times because I saw something I want to do. So this looks a bit weird, changing so hard. So I'm going to grab this and put this a different color as well now. And now when I polish by features, it's going to really sharpen that area. There we go. So now we have something that looks kind of cool actually, even though a second ago it was just, you know, a second ago it was just this, and then we did Dynamesh and it looked just like this, which was very not good. But we added some poly groups and then smoothed them, and it just tightens it up so good. This polish by features is such a good feature. It lets you make some really nice details. And you can go back to this as well that you were working on, and if you hadn't put any detail on it yet, you can still actually use this polish by features to tighten the shape up even more if you're not happy with it. You can even like just change the poly groups. So I'm just gonna change this poly group here, and now use the polish by features again. And it's going to just sharpen that up and change it, and it makes some nice effects. It makes some really nice effects. And you can still just go back here, grab standard, and start making your pieces of wood again. Whatever it is you want to make. It's up to you. Cool. Okay. So we have tried some different things. I'm just playing around here, seeing what I can do. Shown some different effects. Now what else can we do? Let me check my list. I made a list. Groups increase, Dynamesh, surface. Okay, so besides using you know, Dynamesh and and freezing and stuff, and you know, going back in and sculpting if you want, and changing things, we can also use, man, this needs some more resolution. We can also use something called surface noise. So I'm gonna do this here. So I'm gonna go back before I did those pieces of wood. So I'm gonna use this, and I'm going to go to let's see, where do we have it? Surface here. And what surface lets you do is, if you just click noise, it's going to show you this preview, and this is a separate one, and it's just going to add noise to the model like this. And you can change how big it is, you can change how strong it is, and when you click OK, it's going to show you what it's going to look like, and then you have to click apply, and it's going to apply it. If you don't have enough resolution, it's not going to apply it very well, because see, this is just a preview. You click apply, and it's actually going to change your mesh after that, because I can just turn this on and off, and it's just a preview. So let's divide this once more, and then apply the noise, and now we have something like this. Lots of noise. I don't want this everywhere. I want this just on the metal, right? So I'm going to undo this, and I'm just going to select the metal, and I'm going to reverse, and I'm going to mask it. But essentially I just want to mask it. I want to mask the area that I don't want it on, and I can noise, and it's only going to go on this area. And I can click apply, and now I have this kind of slightly more metal-like effect only on this part. Now I don't want to have this effect specifically yet though. Let's do something else. Let's do a different kind of effect. So I'm just going to quick save, just in case something goes wrong. So we're going to quick save. Let's go here, and let's take off free. Let's click this button here called noise plug. So right now we're just using normal noise. If we click noise plug, this is going to give us something else. So this is going to give us a bunch of different things we can do. I'm going to leave this on checkerboards for now. I'm going to click OK, because I can't see anything. So I'm going to change this to red, so it shows me what I'm doing. I'm going to take away the mix basic noise. So this is saying how much of the normal noise we have and how much is going to be this noise plug. I don't want any of the normal noise, I just want the noise plug. And now when I change this plugin scale, it's going to change how big the effect we're making is going to be. So let's do it from above like this, and let's look at it like this, and go edit, noise, edit. Okay, so right now we're using the noise plug to make this really terrible effect. If you go to edit, you can again pick a different one. So I don't want to use checkerboard, I want to use something else. Like you could use brick, you can use camouflage, You can use a lot of these different things to get different effects, scales, and there's lots of options here. Just make sure you turn off interactive update, because that makes it a lot slower. I'm just gonna use granite or gradient. Granite's fine. I'm gonna use, or dense, erosion, all this stuff. Let's do erosion. Sure. Take off interactive update. Leave this as it is. Change this back to white. And you're like, wow, that doesn't look like anything. Yeah, sorry. It's fine. You just need to change the strength. So let's change the strength a bit more. Now it starts to look like something. We'll change it the other way. Let's do something like this. This looks kind of cool. And let's make it a little bit bigger. Because that looks really small. Not noise scale, plugin scale. My computer is starting to get very upset. I'm using a laptop, that is why. So now you have something like this. This can almost look like metal or rock or even leather. You can make it look a bit like leather. So this is like a really cool tool that you can use to make different effects. So let's leave it at this and click OK. And now if I click apply to mesh, oh, it's going really slow. Click apply to mesh, it's gonna put it on the mesh. Now it's here, and that's it. So I wanted to put it on this side, not on this, which is why it's here. But I want to show you something else. So if you wanted to, you could just come in here and start, you know, modeling like you usually would. I want to show you something else. So I'm gonna take the noise off for now. Don't worry, it's gonna save. I'm gonna come down here and go to Morph Target, and I'm gonna click Store Morph Target, right? And so what this has done is it's taken this mesh, it's saved it, and it's put it in here. So it's saved. And now I'm gonna click Noise, and I'm gonna apply it to the mesh. And now if I go to my brushes and I press M, there's a brush here called Morph. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna look at that mesh that I saved, and when I paint, it's gonna paint it back. And now notice we have a switch button, so I can switch it to the mesh that we saved before, and now I can paint what got switched out. So now I can actually come in here and paint in this effect from the noise which I just made. So try learning this Morph Target and how you can use it to make some really cool effects that you probably wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And you can just pick where you want this to come up so that it doesn't like go over the edges or something. It's just very useful, very cool. And you can do stuff like this and start adding details. And all of this is still on our low poly, so I can still like get rid of this. I can check this out. I can go to our geometry, and I can go back to the low resolution. And this is all because we made these colors, we made these creases, we divided it, and now we can work on it without worrying about, you know, other stuff happening. Very cool, very cool. You can use this Morph Target in a lot of different ways as well. So for instance, if I delete the Morph Target I made before, and I'm gonna make a new one, and I'm gonna grab the damn standard brush here, and I'm going to do something like this, or maybe yeah, something like this. So that's like some kind of, maybe this is I don't know, like a balloon or something. You can do something like this, and then I'm going to grab this and then reverse it, and I'm gonna grab the morph brush, and I'm gonna just get rid of this stuff, and I'm gonna bring it back, and now you have this kind of effect. So this is something else you can do. So essentially, when you want to take something from Maya and give it some detail in ZBrush, bring in empty, bring in something like this. Give it colors for the different flat parts that you want to have. Do some creasing with in the crease menu, crease PG, divide it a bunch, and then use all these brushes. Use the morph targets and the surface to get some different effects. That's pretty much it. That's all I want to cover. Also using Dynamesh and groups are very useful when you combine them with deformation and polish by features. This is so cool. Like you can do all sorts of stuff with this. Just Dynamesh, make your groups. Let's just grab this, make a group, Control W, different color, polish by features, and you have like a detail right there. So easy, so useful. That's it. I would usually just go through all of this and detail it in this way. And yeah, that's pretty much that's everything I want to cover. There's lots of other things you can do, but that's getting into more, you know, learning ZBrush. The most important thing is, you know, use the Z modeler brush to help you put in your polygroups and all that stuff. Let's just go higher. Put in your polygroups and use you know, Dynamesh and polygroups again with Control W combined with polish by features to get you started. And after you've gotten started and you have something like this, then you don't need any more. Then you can just use ZBrush like you would for anything else. Okay, cool, that's it. Thanks, hope that's useful.